What's up, everybody? I am HoopsandHipHop, and welcome back to another episode of the Pokeblock Podcast. In last week's episode, we talked about Pokemon Pink and the leak of information that suggested that Pokemon Pink version was going to be an actual thing along with Pokemon Yellow. It's pretty crazy stuff, so if you haven't heard that episode, I definitely recommend going to check it out. But in today's episode, now that we've kind of moved on from that stuff, we're going to talk about really quick some stuff that happened during the week, Pokemon news-wise, because there was a little bit in the animation side of things that happened this week, and then we're going to get into the main topic, which is all about things that I think that Pokemon should just stop doing. Like, stop it. Stop it, Pokemon. Stop it. Bad video game franchise. That sort of thing. You know. Okay, so, with that being said, we got to talk about the anime stuff first, right? And actually, before I get into that, I do need to thank the sponsors of this broadcast and this podcast and this channel, frankly, because they help us do what we do and just help us. They keep us going, and we really appreciate it, so we want to give them a shout out. And with that said, today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Did you know that in order to get your stimulus check, you have to have filed your taxes for 2018 or the 2019 tax year? Because if you haven't filed your 2018 or 2019 taxes, there's good news. The Tax Defense Group can rush e-file your taxes. They know that millions of Americans are struggling right now, and they want to make sure that you get your stimulus check sooner rather than later. So call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973 to get started. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online as well at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Writer Junkie. Due to the global pandemic and economic downturn, Writer Junkie is offering their resume writing service for only $100. And with a 3-day turnaround as well, you can't beat that price and delivery time. It's seriously a great deal. So call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Mention that you heard this ad on UCast Studios, and they will get right to work. All right, so thank you to the sponsors. Now that we have that taken care of, yeah, we got to get into the anime stuff for a second. And two things happened related to the anime. Number one, we had the Twilight Wings episode that I kind of mentioned in the last episode that was supposed to happen on Friday of last week, but it happened on Tuesday of this week in English. And overall, it was pretty good. Like, it was basically just as good as we have come to expect from the Twilight Wings episodes. I would say it wasn't quite as good as the Wooloo episode last month, because that one was just adorable, but this one featured Nessa, so you know it was going to be pretty good, if you know what I'm saying. And overall, it was good. It was great. It once again fuels my hatred of Pokemon teasing us with these series when they could easily just make a full-blown series that's this good, and we could actually have a good anime show. Not that, I mean, I know some people like the main anime, and I'm not saying it's terrible, but it could certainly be better, in my opinion. But speaking of the main anime, the English dub of Pokemon, it's just straight up called Pokemon, the Sword and Shield anime, that was announced, and it's being called Pokemon Journeys, which makes sense because he's traveling around the world and going everywhere. And the interesting thing is that in the US, it's going to be exclusively on Netflix. So it's not going to be on TV at all. It's just going to be on Netflix. And they're going to release new episodes every quarter, every 3 months or so. Which I think the Netflix thing is a good idea, just because it gives people on-demand access to it, and people like me who are kind of I wouldn't watch, if it was on TV and I had to watch it at a specific day and time, I wouldn't watch it. I just don't, I'm not interested enough in the anime to block that out of my schedule. But if it's on demand and I can watch it literally any time, then I'm at least gonna give it a shot. I'll at least check it out and see what it has to offer. And then obviously if it's new episodes every quarter, you're gonna start out with probably 5 or so episodes to start off with. and then you can kind of get invested in it. So I think that is a really good move on their part. I said ever since this anime first debuted at all that I really do like the concept of them going everywhere and like basically just going all over the place, and the character design of the new characters is really, really good, and it looks like they're actually giving, like, if you've been paying attention to what's happening since the anime has already started in Japan, they're actually giving Ash some really good Pokemon, so that's encouraging. So it does have a lot of encouraging things, and so I think I'll at least give it a shot since it's on Netflix, and we'll see what happens. But my main thing with the anime that like always like turns me away from it and just makes me not as interested as you would normally think I would be as such a big fan of Pokemon is just kind of the overall vibe of it. Like the main anime, that's the reason why I like Twilight Wings and Pokemon Generations so much in comparison to the main animes, because the main anime is like, it is the thing in Pokemon that is directed towards kids more than anything else. So it has a very just cheery, happy-go-lucky, all is well in the world type of vibe going on. And that, honestly, just really is like cringy to me as a viewer. I just think it's like not enjoyable to watch at all versus the names are escaping me, Twilight Wings and Pokemon Generations, where it's like they're like the instant you start to watch it, like, you know, the vibe is like there's a more mature, it's more serious, and it's just overall like more like nitty gritty type of like, yeah, let's do this sort of thing, you know, like it's overall just more mature, and that's kind of the big difference. It's mature on one end versus more just kid friendly or kid focused on the other end. And like, that's not to say that like I want just like an M-rated or even a T-rated Pokemon show where there's like blood and gore and like people like doing bad stuff. No, I don't want that. I want something that I as an adult can get interested in, and those two series provide the perfect balance of kid friendliness and maturity that adults can get interested in, which is what leads me into my first topic for things that Pokemon should get rid of. They should just do away with it. Just get rid of it. Just throw it away. Throw it in the trash can, and then throw it in the dumpster, and then throw that dumpster into a fire, and then take the ashes and throw it off a mountaintop. That's what they need to do. Starting with that cheeriness that I mentioned, the over the top happiness, cheeriness, all is well in the world type of attitude. They need to ditch that. Like, they need to nip that in the butt. And that's not only in the anime. There's a lot of that in the game. Like, especially if, like, in the early game, and especially if you're talking to certain characters, like your rival, for instance, or maybe like the champion or gym leader, like there's an overwhelming sense that it's like, it's basically just like everyone's there to support you and love you and like help you specifically do what you're trying to do. And it's just like, it gets really old. It just gets lame. The reason, like, the biggest offender of this, in my opinion, is probably the black and white anime. And I know the black and white anime is overall seen like it's not really liked that much. So I know a lot of people are probably on the same page with me on this, but the black and white anime is just like, every time someone speaks, it's a compliment. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, that's such a good job. You're so cool. This is so great. What a great day. And it's just like over the top, just like bubbly and happy. And it's like that, you know, that's because it's supposed to be more of a kid type of thing. Once again, it's more kid focused than anything else, but it's just so cringy to watch. It's just really, really, really bad. So they need to, like, once again, it's not like I'm asking for like edginess. Like, I'm not asking for like an edgelord type of like Pokemon product, whether it be a game or the show or whatever. I just want them to be like, it just needs to be real. It just needs to be more balanced out. Like, the rival needs to be the rival. there just should not be as much just like sunshine and rainbows in Pokemon. That's the best way to put it in one sentence. There should not be as much sunshine and rainbows in Pokemon as there currently is. You need to kind of not even really up the meanness a little bit. You just need to like up the maturity level. Like let people rub elbows a little more. Let people just be like let there be even just like the slightest little bit of contention. Like it's fine. People don't have to even be mean to each other. Just overall, just stop letting characters help and complement each other so much. I know that kind of sounds like a really weird thing to not want, but like it's just over the top in my opinion, especially with the anime. That's kind of why I went away from the anime, sort of. But it is in the games as well. So overall, I just want that gone. And then another thing in the games, more specifically, that relates to that they also need to get rid of is basically the easiness of the games themselves. And I know a lot of people will agree with me on this. And there's some specific things I'm talking about when I say the easiness of the games, because overall, I feel that the games like do still provide a solid challenge and have in recent years. It just kind of depends on how you play. Like for instance, X and Y is always talked about as being really like super way too easy. But if you just don't use the experience share, then it's going to be just as challenging as any other Pokemon game. So that's a really easy fix. And then there's like more recent things, like people have been discussing with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and Sword and Shield whether or not the shared experience share is a good thing. And once again, it kind of just depends on how you use it. If you go out and battle every single wild Pokemon that you encounter and you spend 2 hours in the wild area when you should kind of just be moving along your adventure, and you are battling those wild Pokemon, then yeah, you're probably going to get over leveled and like screw yourself up. But if you kind of just like stay on the path you're supposed to stay on for that point in time, and then you can worry about the wild area later, it's going to help you out. So, and then like even if you want to explore the wild area, you just swap out the Pokemon on your team. Even like there's ways to make it work. So I'm not really as worried about things like that, because I think it kind of just depends on how you play the game. Because like for me, that didn't affect my level of challenge or the difficulty of the game at all for Sword and Shield, or for Let's Go for that matter. I thought they were both solidly challenging when I played them. The main thing I'm talking about when I say they got to get rid of like easiness is that like the past few games, but even I don't know, like even more so in the more recent ones, you always have characters along the way just like handing you stuff, whether it's Pokeballs to catch Pokemon, whether it's potions to heal your Pokemon, whether it's just actually healing your Pokemon just straight up. They're just basically kind of all the supporting characters in the story are basically just like taking care of you the whole time, to where I don't have to go out and buy potions and use my own money because I already have them. I don't have to like worry about all my Pokemon being fainted and only having one more and it's got like 5 HP left and I've still got to make it to the next town, because people are always healing your Pokemon all the time. Like back in my day, you would go through a whole stinking cave filled with Pokemon and trainers, and there was no potions in there whatsoever. You would get the crap beaten out of you. You would finally make it out on the other side, and there would be trainers just lined up on that next route between the opening of the cave and the next town that you still had to get through before you could get and heal. Like their sole purpose was to like beat that last little bit of life out of you before you got to the next town and could heal up. That is those are the types of things that really made the challenge in Pokemon games there. It made them challenging, and now that has effectively been taken away, because every time you battle like a rival, for instance, they heal your Pokemon after, or they give you a bunch of potions so you can heal your Pokemon. It just kind of like, it bogs down the experience to where you're like, okay, thanks a lot, thanks but no thanks. And it's just, it takes a lot of the joy out of it, which I think, like, they're obviously really trying to balance the experience for younger players and older players. And the reason why they've made it easier in recent years is because they've even stated this, that there's so many like games nowadays, and obviously especially with mobile games around, there's so much for kids to be able to play. So if they start struggling on a part of the game and they can't get past, they're more apt to just give up and go away and play some phone game or something like that. So Game Freak are trying to kind of remedy that by making it easier for them to be able to complete the game and not get stuck, so they can enjoy it and keep their attention on it, which is all well and good, but that is exactly why you need to institute like an easy mode, hard mode type of situation. That is really the only way you're going to satisfy both crowds, because like the way they're doing it now, trying to do this balancing act by having your player get a bunch of potions and healed up all the time, it's just not working. So I really hope they institute a easy mode, hard mode type of thing in the future, like they did with Black 2 and White 2, because that's really going to be the best way to do it. That would solve everything and would make everyone happy, and it would be pretty easy, and it's not like it would be that big a deal. So hopefully they do that, but either way, they gotta stop the hand holding. They really gotta stop the hand holding. Before we move on to my next point, though, want to give another shout out to the Tax Defense Group. Be sure to check them out if you need to get your taxes filed still and you want to get that stimulus check. Their number is 800-850-7973. You can visit them online, taxdefensegroup.com. And Writer Junkie as well. If you need a resume, they can hook you up. They're doing an extra good deal right now. Also call them at 805-587-7966. And you can visit them at writerjunkie.com. Big shout outs to them. The next point I'm going to get into is gimmick evolutions. This is one that I've kind of been thinking about for a while. Excuse me. And I think it's time to just do away with them. Most specifically, or more specifically, I can't talk. I'm talking about trade evolutions in this instance. I know like trade evolutions are basically a foundation of the franchise. They've been there forever. They're kind of like one of the main pillars of like what Pokemon is about and getting people to like interact with one another. But I think times have changed for Pokemon, and they're just frustrating more than anything else, to be honest. Because back in the day, even back in the day when it was just like on the Game Boy, trade evolutions were frustrating. They were hard because as a kid, you had to A, have the Game Boy in the first place, B, also had to have a link cable, and getting that out of your parents was no easy task. And then you had to find someone who also had the game and a Game Boy as well. And you had to convince them to trade a Pokemon for you, but then give it back. And basically, that could only be like your best friend, because there were tons of kids on the playground that would basically, like, you could not trust them. You would give them your Pokemon, and then you would never see them again. They would transfer to another school. Like, they would be gone. So it's like you had to find someone you could trust. You had to get the cable. It was just a whole big stinking thing, and it was really, really frustrating, which is why I never, ever, ever used Pokemon like Machamp or Alakazam or Gengar, or even in Gen 2, Scizor and Steelix, which I would have loved to use, because they were just too hard to get. And I know kind of that's sort of the point, but it was just really hard to get back in the day. But now I think the problem is even worse, because now that we live in the age of the internet where everything's connected and people are always talking to each other and interacting with each other online anyway, I think the point of trade evolutions is extinct. Like, the purpose that they served doesn't exist anymore because it's being filled by all this other stuff that we're using to connect, even within the games themselves. Like, people are always battling online and stuff, and like there's still online trading that people are always doing. Like, Wonder Trade is fantastic. So I think there is an apt amount of communication to the point where we really don't need trade evolutions anymore, because they're really just frustrating, they're really hard, and it's just really annoying. And to me, in my opinion, it's just not worth the hassle for the Pokemon. It really isn't, because like it's just kind of a chore to find someone to trade with and trade back, and I don't know. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. And I think because the point of it is kind of gone in this day and age, I feel like they should just go away. And I actually think Game Freak might actually be going in that direction, because we saw Pokemon like Steelix, for instance, that were able to be captured in the wild in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And that is a Pokemon who you could only ever get, like, up to this point via trade, and now we can just find it in the wild. And that's one of the things I think Sword and Shield did really well, was the amount of Pokemon and the types of Pokemon you could find in the wild. It was just fantastic. So I'm hoping that that is a sign of things to come, because I would just really like that a lot. And speaking of, and just like getting onto some other types of evolutions, because it's not just trade evolutions either. Things like the evolutions, Leafeon and Glaceon, needing to level up next to some magic moss rock or ice rock to be able to evolve, that is stupid. Things like that need to go away. Like, these are evolutions, a leaf stone exists, we now have an ice stone as well. Just allow them to evolve with that and we'll be good. I think having to have a rock that you have to find in every game to evolve these Pokemon is very stupid. Like, that's dumb. Things like that. Those are the types of things I'm talking about, in addition to the trade evolutions that just need to not exist. So that's all I'm going to say about that, and hopefully that will happen. Another thing I'm going to talk about that I think a lot of people will agree with me on are one-time features. Game Freak and Pokemon games are notorious for introducing a key feature every generation, but then largely having that feature be exclusive to that game and not really using it again after that. The reason they do this, as they have stated, is so every game has something special about it that will make you want to go back to that game, so it basically just doesn't get outdated by other new games that come out, which is completely understandable. Like, I can agree with them. Like, I can agree with that philosophy. It makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, I think it kind of does more harm than good to future games, and kind of the opinion of the fan base in general. We're kind of seeing that sort of situation play out with Mega Evolution, where they introduced Mega Evolution in X and Y. Everyone absolutely loved it, but then it was largely scaled back in Gen 7, taken out altogether in Gen 8, and people are just like, they want Mega Evolution. Like, we don't give a crap if it's supposed to be just for X and Y or Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Like, we just want Mega Evolution. And so, like, you're kind of killing yourself, shooting yourself in the foot twofold with that, because A, you're making your fans upset, which obviously isn't good. And then B, you're basically like stripping the games of something that people enjoy, which isn't good either. Even if you have something there to replace it, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be as good. And so overall, like, you have a reason for wanting to do that sort of thing, and it's noble and good and it makes sense, but are the requirements that you have to complete to make that happen, is it worth it? And I don't think maintaining the playability or the appeal of past Pokemon games, old Pokemon games, I don't think that's worth sacrificing the potential of new Pokemon games. It's just simply as cut and dry as that. And I don't think Game Freak they're not really giving their old games enough credit either, because I think even if every game since X and Y, for instance, had Mega Evolution, and we had new Mega Evolutions in every game, there would still be reasons to go back and play X and Y. Like, you've obviously got the region, there's the characters, there's the story. Like, people are still going to go back and play those older games regardless, because there's more reasons to go replay a game than just, ooh, this one feature was really cool. Like, people have nostalgia, people have emotional attachments, people just are drawn to certain games one over the other. So there's enough reasons for people to want to go back and play games that are older that you don't need to worry about giving them a reason to do that. So while I'm not saying that like every game needs to have every feature that every other game had, because that would be kind of ridiculous, and I do also like how they introduce new features every generation, and this idea kind of gives them the opportunity to do that. Like that is kind of a good byproduct of this philosophy. I just think they can do both. I really do. Like, they could have Mega Evolution and also have Dynamaxing, and then we could have had a whole big like Dynamax versus Mega Evolution, like we could have those kinds of battles, and that would be awesome. And if they're worried about, oh, we want people to use something new and competitive, so like we don't want them to use Mega Evolution, well, that's what like VGC rules are for. You could just like ban Mega Evolutions for this year or for this generation in competitive and only have people use Gigantamax or Dynamax. Like, that would be that easy. And then as far as like just the main game, like casual play, it doesn't matter. So ultimately, I think they really need to knock that off. I think it needs to stop. Like I said, it's not necessary that every feature comes back every time. Like, for instance, Dynamaxing, since that's kind of a thing that is heavily tied to the Galar region in lore, that could be something that kind of just fades away. Same thing with Z moves and Alola. That's very much tied to the Alola region, more so than like Mega Evolution is, where like all you have to do is like have the Keystone and the Mega Stone and you're good to go. So that thing can travel a little more. So like there's certain things that you can kind of give and take as you go along, but overall, yeah, just needs to cut it out. Just needs to go away. And last but not least, we have one that I have been a super advocate for and will continue to be an advocate for until it stops, and that is legendary Pokemon distributions. Please, for the love of holy poop, do not just give me a mythical Pokemon, because it makes me want to do nothing more than literally just stick it in a box and never touch it again. But also, it makes me want to chuck my freaking 3DS or my Switch now out the window, because it's so stupid. Why are you giving me one of the most powerful Pokemon for free with no effort whatsoever, and why does the freaking delivery man of all people have it? This is supposed to be a Pokemon, by definition, that is so rare that people don't even know that it exists, if it exists or not. And the postman has it, the delivery man just casually has it, just casually gives it to me. No, that's not a realistic situation, Game Freak. So knock it off. Like, these Pokemon deserve quests in the game that we get to play through. They deserve a challenge. They deserve like a challenging moment in the game where we have to obtain them, where it's actually hard to obtain them, and they deserve backstory as well. They deserve to be fleshed out, and we deserve to learn something about them, because that's what Pokemon is about. Why do you think the games got so popular? It was because there were Pokemon like Mewtwo and Mew that were playground myths, and we didn't know anything about them, but we knew they existed. We knew they were in the game somehow, but we didn't know how to get them, and that just exploded interest for the franchise. All of that is gone now, because it's widely known how you get these Pokemon, and you get them by having it just delivered to you on a silver platter, literally. So, like, they're literally taking one of the biggest reasons why Pokemon got popular, out of the game, and that is unbelievably stupid. Like, I love to death everyone at Game Freak who has made these games possible, but this is something that I feel so strongly about that if I was in a room with Junichi Masuda, I would be like, hey, Junichi, I love what you've done for Pokemon, and for me personally, you have, like, created something that has changed my life and enriched it so much, but I would have no problem laying it down right there in front of him and telling him straight to his face, you need to knock this crap off. This is a disservice to the franchise. This is a disservice to your fans. This is a disservice to the Pokemon that your artists have spent time and effort creating. This is just not good. This is not doing anyone any favors, and it sucks, so knock it off. I would have no problem saying that to him or to anyone involved with Game Freak at all. Like, it's just so stupid. It's so stupid. And then you get into it eventually boils over to where now it's a problem with the fans. Like me right now, I am so passionate and so just like upset about this concept that it's irking me as a fan. It's making me upset, and making your fans upset is obviously the worst thing you can do. So not only is it just like a stupid idea from every angle, but now it's also boiling over and making your fans mad, which is not good. So whatever reason you're doing it for is now null and void because your fans are mad, and that's one thing you don't want to do. So we just need to get rid of it. Right now, we have Zarude that was just announced. He's the first mythical Pokemon in Sword and Shield to be like publicly revealed and everything. And we know something's going to happen with him, but we don't know how he's going to be distributed. Like, he's going to be distributed some way, but it's how he's distributed. If he's distributed with an event where you have to go to some place to catch him and you get some backstory along the way, that is what we want. That is good. If you just give him to me and the delivery man gives him to me in the game and that's it, no. I will be coming to your house with pitchforks and torches if that happens. So we still have hope in Sword and Shield, but we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. But if it happens how it's been happening, I'm not gonna be happy, and a lot of people aren't gonna be happy. So knock it off, Game Freak. But with that said, that's basically all the time we have for today. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in, for listening, for hearing me stumble over my words, because I feel like I stumbled over some stuff today, but it's okay. It happens, and it's casual, and that's the beauty of a podcast, is you can just be an idiot, and it's live, and you just roll with it. So with that said, if you guys enjoyed, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you're on YouTube, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Obviously, I'll be back Friday with another one. Always interesting, so be sure to tune in, and it really helps out me over on my own channel too, so I really appreciate people who are coming over from there. If you haven't checked me out on my channel, Hoops and Hip Hop, I make Pokemon content all the time. It's really fun, fantastic time. But with that being said, yeah, I really hope you guys are staying safe, hanging in there, and hopefully you guys will have a great week and a great weekend. And I will see you here next Friday, and until then, as always, I will smell you guys later.